So we start off in 1966, a year before the vast majority of the real-time tellings of what is to go down and become in this book. Most of the flashbacks are from various other timelines before that. And we're greeted to open this book with a haunting opening where Delmore Berry is enduring a night of psychological torture of the worst kind with his team as its youngest member, merely a boy, is minutes away beyond enemy lines, being tortured and horrifically dismembered and castrated and forced to eat his own castrated pieces by the infamous Apache sniper. This is a real person from real life, and if you do your homework on her, you will see that she is one of the most ruthless women in war history. Probably the most ruthless woman in war history. It is total mutilation. If they go over the lines to attempt a rescue, the U.S. Army will abandon them expendable. Not to mention, this is a sniper tactical technique, like it's a trap to get them to go over the line so they can shoot them too, and then people try to go get them and they'll get shot too. So this is what fuels Berry's application into the Baker team. And then we cut back to the future where Delmore meets Ortega, and Ortega also meets a very young, expressive for the times, John Rambo, who accompanies Ortega for some some beers, and we get this awesome kamikaze attack story, a wave attack told by Rambo, where the enemy, in what would feel as an amazing action sequence, where we see like the enemy just rushing the trenches, and the enemy they don't even care if they get killed, they just want to overcome the U.S. forces and take them. So it's like all out Armageddon, a very beautifully written war sequence, fighting sequence. We catch up later on with Ortega pondering the profound meeting he had with Rambo, and we meet his love Helen, and they make love for the first time they join, and we get some of his medical background, and he returns to see his family, and we start seeing Ortega's PTSD, and he's not really able to relate to his family anymore, and we see his estranged relationship with his stepbrother. There is also this fantastic nightmare scene in the segment that gets really, really gory, but I'll leave you to read that for yourself, because we're trying to keep it PG-13 tonight and not X-rated. So that alone should tell you the implications of going to check out this scene. Then we get to meet Troutman, aka the Beast, a brutal, nagging force. If he doesn't break you, nothing will. This Troutman, the way Wallace writes him is really great and original. It's very original. The speech he gives to his men, this portion is beautifully written. Beautiful, just beautiful. And we get some amazing training segments that follow, very brutal. Running for hours in the rain and the mud, carrying heavy boulders while they run for hours and hours. Meanwhile, Troutman constantly hounds them, nags them. We see some great teamwork start to come about between the team, carrying tree trunks two at a time through the water, one man collapsing, being helped up by another. There's a lot of danger in what they're doing, and this is really one of these pieces that show that if you want it, you gotta take it. The world needs nobody halfway. So we learn of Carl Jurgensen, his family's business, and the hard times hard choices of his father, pulling Carl out of school into a life of owed slavery. Pretty much, Wallace doesn't say it, but it almost feels like you don't need an education because you're going to work for me, kind of thing. Because the duties are tough and they really need the help. And what beauty and stature mean to Jurgensen at the same time? We learn of this, he really does appreciate the finer things in life. And the love at first sight moment with his one and only to-be. There's a great back and forth that follows with Troutman and his right man, Garner, about his intentions with forming a team in the midst of lies and betrayal at the hands of their government. It goes very deep. Soon we're back to dead weight rucksack training full of rocks and bricks and stuff, heavy on the back weight, training down a slippery hillside featuring Krakauer and Danforth. A slightly comedic scene, but there's a lot of pain here, especially when Danforth falls into a canyon. And they take a rather funny alternate route to meet their party. And yes, it's a riot when they finally meet up. And we get to discover Danforth's background, who pulls a robbery job with his cousin, who gets his head blown off, like in an extremely bloody segment. I don't believe that they thought anyone was going to be there, but you know how it goes. Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Danforth has his gory revenge, retreats, and is hunted and confronted by law enforcement. The standoff almost goes horribly wrong. We get more depth in a follow-up to Troutman and Gardner's one-on-ones. There's an excruciating look at the team's day of last marches. And, the men sleep outside in a severe storm like dogs in the rain out in the cold. Coletta succumbs to a heavy fever, jungle fever, and the guys treat him fearing the worst. They think he's going to die. This is when the hardcore and death's door training of the selection process really begins, and we see the pressures of not cracking and failing the selection process. What these men, my hat goes off to them, what they would have had to do. Troutman shows no mercy at Coletta's situation, and it's all downhill from here, really. There's a beautiful deer hunter montage, flashback for Coletta here, that follows, where he has a close encounter with a bear, a fucking bear, while hunting with his father as a young man, as a young boy. It's a pretty close call. It's pretty bloody and pretty close call. But I love the very warm bonding moment that follows between him and his father. Very out of the box and unexpected, and is one of the book's strong points. Well played, Wallace. The intensity in this scene is unfathomable. It really takes the book up a bunch of notches. We start seeing small snippets of Troutman giving leeway, but it doesn't last, and we get a view of the Beast himself, and this lovable father figure, and why you should never cross him. Lovable, but at the turn of a dime, he can become the Beast. The beauty in the Beast, if you want, without the lady part of beauty, but the beauty as in someone who loves you. But he has a great revealing moment here with Barry, and eventually Ortega falls again to the fever on a practice run, and the pressure and tension really kicks in. A fight breaks out, and Ortega's mouth is badly injured when his tongue is almost punched out by Jurgensen. It's a pretty graphic scene. We get this awesome look at Messner, and a great second flashback by Rambo fighting blind behind enemy lines in a fantastic action sequence. The in tall grass. Rambo's in the tall grass, and very crazy. The team starts getting separated, and Barry rescues someone who's drowning in a river. They're trapped by a falling tree, and he goes through this incredible feat of strength to rescue this man. In Ortega's unconsciousness, he dreams of the space race and the presidential shooting, and his first real drunk rage fueling him to take a new course in life. He's chewing on beer cans, bloody mouth, like his physical body in the real world back from the punch. And it starts getting really real and disturbing as they endure their final tests. It kind of turns up the heat a bit, I would say. Ortega's denied medical attention and rewoken from his fever, not from his fever, from his dream, and tortured further brutally, just brutally. If one thing I can say about this book is it's freaking brutal, and even undergoes waterboarding torture. Garner severely beats on the boys. Troutman's in the mix, kicking the shit out of Jurgensen, teaching him a valuable lesson about teamwork and why not to fight your own team. Great combination of intensity here. But my second favorite part, next to the beginning of the book, is the end. Rambo's final test, where we get a glimpse of the character we all know and love. He is told one last time to quit the selection process, and he refuses in a way that directly links to this talk he has with Troutman, directly links it to the talk he has with Troutman at the end of First Blood, 1982. It's the most touching part of the book that deals with the never go back, never give up, die for something suicidal side of Rambo from the films. And we're going to get to more of that in the Q&A. This chapter alone is worth reading the whole book. The light at the end of the tunnel where they all pass the process, which is a given. And finally, after months, get a warm bed to sleep off into the sequel. As far as the sequel goes, there is a tease given to us here, and thank you for that, Mr. Wallace Lee. This features an intense helicopter attack sequence. Very, very, very crazy fucking firefight here. And you're going to have to read it for yourself to get the full experience. And this book too, because we're barely skimming the surface, and this time it's up to you. And I'm giving this book a 9 out of 11 star rating, because our stars go to 11 for minor grammatical translation error that actually works with its territory here, and because there was so little Rambo. But make no mistake, the Rambo you get is worth the wait, and I love how he made this a bigger story and a bigger world to explore. This really is a feat of engineering that should not be underestimated or taken lightly, because it really is a beautiful, beautifully wonderful piece of fact and fiction alike, and writing in itself. So, all right, time for 36 questions with Rambo Year 1 author Wallace Lee. Actually, more than 36 questions, because many of them have multiple questions included in each question. So, with that, here we go. And, I'd like to welcome back to RAMBOMANIA, Mr. Wallace Lee.